Welcome, Jenna B, to the Soul Led Spirit Driven podcast. I am so looking forward to this conversation. I really am. I've given you a bit of an introduction. By all means, it probably doesn't even paint the whole picture. So I would love for you to take us on this journey of how you came to this point and doing what you're doing today and filling the gaps for us.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I already have goosebumps, actually.
Beautiful, love
It has been a wild journey. And I think you know that the journey is such a journey. And when does it end? I don't think it does end by any means. But really, once I became pregnant with my son and I was kind of reliving the painful memories of my childhood, I realized that I needed peace and forgiveness for myself. And so it took me on this beautiful spiritual journey of really opening up so many wounds that needed to be healed. And over the last 8 years, I have found to heal them and to live in such a beautiful, positive, loving space that I have created what I only dreamt of as a child. I now get to live as my real life.
amazing. And I had the pleasure of looking through a few of your videos, and I have to say, like in the last few days especially, they're always so high vibe and beautiful and honest. There's some that are really raw and honest, like you don't hold back, but mostly I really get this beautiful energy from you. And those of you who will watch this on later on YouTube will see Jenna's beautiful energy. But I just love that you are imbued in this energy. So clearly you have done some work, and now we get to bathe in this energy, right? That you have brought to the
Mhm.
table. So Jenna, and I also want to, before we dive into like our topic today and why we are here, I just want to say thank you so, so much for like working around me, moving. Like we have both kids, we're on different continents, and that's always hard. But I really, really
Mhm.
appreciate that you made this happen because, again, looking through your I guess Instagram, where you show up and stuff, I just knew, oh gosh, I need to have you here, and we need to bathe in this energy, and we need to share your wisdom. I really, really love. So we will get into all the things that Jenna does, but what I would really like for us to delve into is, I guess, and this is a topic that a lot of my listeners will probably resonate really, really deeply with, because a lot of them are spiritual entrepreneurs, a lot of them are soulpreneurs, mumpreneurs. And what interests me is because I found that working with my clients, I've noticed that sometimes it doesn't, like the structure, the doing the business, like with your analytical mind, just doing, hustling, doesn't really resonate so much, and they burn themselves out. But
Mhm.
bringing spirituality into it and really opening up to it, so being maybe mindful, maybe doing some energy work, really, really resonates. But I would love for you to tell us, perhaps, is it possible for entrepreneurs to be analytically minded and spiritual as well?
I absolutely think it is possible. And I think spirituality, honestly, is knowing oneself. That is the definition of spirituality. So for me, I was in real estate and doing this really big career and still really not feeling my purpose had been lived out, or I was doing my purpose. And so my husband gave me 6 months to like just sit and meditate and figure out what my purpose was supposed to be in this life. And I think that when we give ourselves the opportunity to really stop and be quiet and silent and listen, I feel like that's when we get our true purpose in life. And that's when I mean, like, our soul and entrepreneurship do come together, because now I get to do what I absolutely love. My soul is filled, my heart is filled, and I get to speak. But it wasn't until I gave myself that opportunity of the hustle and the grind to go away and really the quietness come in that I found my true purpose. So I think they're so completely aligned. It's just, how far do you want to take it? My husband is the analytical one and he's the president of a financial company, and he's on his spiritual journey as well. And I really think he's brought his practices into his managers and how they treat their employees, and what kind of compassion and empathy do we show, I think is a lot different. And I think that's part of the spiritual world too, is just having that open, kind heart with anybody that you share your life with. And then you just move forward with hopefully more of a positive, more aligned feeling within, because you're giving yourself the opportunity to listen to that gut instinct and listen to yourself in general.
Oh, I love it. You touched on so many good points. The duality, right? The duality that, like, yes, we need that analytical, that hustle, because without it, it's like with without the darkness, we don't see the light, right? You can't know what you really need unless you know what you don't want. And also, what I love that you shared is spirituality doesn't have to be carrying crystals in your bra from now on to have a better business, or burning incense. Not to say that that's wrong, I love that, but you don't have to, right? It's like your husband being a man, being analytically minded, being in a very perhaps left brain type of environment most of his working day, can still bring in spiritual practices through, mindset, through empathy, through how he treats people, perhaps, and what he instills into the managers that you said, so that they can pass it on and have that ripple effect. I really love that. How do you then work with your clients? So, like, what type of people find you usually?
So I actually have not been coaching for about a year now. It became a little bit more of a responsibility than I initially understood when I started in this realm. So I haven't been coaching recently, but I think the thing that people are the most interested about is they're always trying to find the answer outside of themselves. And then I think once I learned that the answer was actually within me the whole time, and I was able to just sit and listen again, is I think the biggest thing that I try to at least talk to people about, even though I'm not coaching or working with people anymore, is really just the outside noise is outside noise. But once you're able to come into your beautiful little box and actually listen to what God or universe or source has to tell you, we actually already have all the answers within us.
So good. And like I said, your account is just the kind of account that I would say, if you're having a bad day, if you're having a bad start to the day, just go and watch Jenna, and you will just immediately, like, your vibration will be raised. And I really, really love that about you and what you bring to the spiritual arena, because we're really just sparks, right? Like, there's no one sits at the top. There's no hierarchy. I mean, old paradigm, I think, of the spiritual world was there were a few selected ones, usually men, that were sitting at the top, and everyone else, was too scared to bring out their natural intuitive abilities, and out of fear for being prosecuted. But now, we just become these sparks for each other, and I love when you can find them in the most unexpected places, like where your husband does, or like, you go to Instagram and you stumble upon your account. I love that. Jenna, so you mentioned in the beginning that, and I've read a little bit up about you, that it appears that your childhood wasn't rosy and peachy and wonderful, and you've gone through a bit, but you did say that you managed to heal yourself and see the wounds and going within. Could you please share a little bit, if whatever feels comfortable for you, like, just to give us a picture of what you were dealing with, like what was the pain that you were healing yourself in, and what was that point that kind of made you go like, okay, this is from that, and I don't want to carry this with me anymore?
Yeah. So I was raised by a single narcissistic alcoholic mother. I actually did not meet my father until the age of 36. So I was just kind of along for the ride. I hung out with motorcycle gang members who were in jail for murder now. I mean, it was just my mom kind of doing whatever she wanted, and I just kind of bounced along all the way. And it was very painful, and it was very lonely, and there was no consistency, and it just was an unsafe kind of situation for majority of my life. I think once I turned 16 and I could get a job and a car, it definitely, my independence changed a lot. And I actually moved away. I moved out of state when I was 19, as far away from my mother as I possibly could. I just needed to be independent on my own and stand on my own. And I always knew what was going on around me with like the alcohol and the fights wasn't normal or okay. And so I would just kind of hide in my room a lot to stay out of the way. But it really wasn't until I became a mother myself that did all this stuff just really bubble to the surface. And that's when I decided that I wasn't going to repeat the generational trauma, and I had to fix it and find peace for myself so that my child could have peace and my husband could have peace and we could live in a beautiful, safe home.
Wow, that sounds like so much for a little girl to witness, yeah, and go through. And oh, my heart just goes out to you, the little Jenna that had to witness all of that, right?
Yeah, but I say, I can like almost laugh at it and smile about it now because I've overcome it. But I wouldn't take any of it back because it also has put me in the position that I'm in today speaking to you. So, I have great empathy and love for the situation, and I'm proud that I made it out and I can speak and turn my pain into purpose. And so I feel honored at the end of the day, to be honest with you.
So you've touched on something that I actually wanted to ask you, because I work with the Akashic Records, and from the Akashic Records, I've learned that there is a soul purpose. Like, we have a purpose to come down here. It's usually called life lessons, and they're not life lessons like the way us humans see it, that what my mum did taught me this. It's more just that if you're here, let's say, to experience self-love, to learn about self-love, generally you would choose a family where you don't have that in the beginning, and they provide you with all these opportunities so that you then can find the strength within you and still love yourself through all this, because you don't have that from them. So through this, I understand also that when we have life lessons, we also choose these guides, which are people in our life. Some are the ones that help us, encourage us, maybe your husband, right? But some give us they're the teachers, and they actually give us the opportunity to really like find that self-love, because let's say your mom didn't give it to you, your mom didn't give you love, right? And so through that understanding, we're able to find empathy to the person that did it, maybe forgive them, but mostly we get this overview and we can see, which I feel like that's what you've explained to us, we can see, oh, this isn't me. I don't have to live in this pattern, or I don't have to feel, I don't know, broken or wounded or unworthy. Right? So we learn this through that. And then often that leads us to, wow, I feel so good now because I can see this and I can see what's happening, and I can see that, this wasn't about me. It's not that my mum hated me or whatever. It was her wounds, her pain, right? And we can see that. So would you say that on your journey where you are now with your mum, where did you arrive? Did you arrive at feeling empathy, forgiveness, love, or just nothing?
In the beginning of my process, or when I was born?
Where you are now, like in terms of how you feel about your mum now being here.
Okay. Well, I really started to realize that her childhood was not great, and she was raised by a single mother. And so when I was also able to have that perspective, I was really able to see she did do the best of what she could with what she had. Her and I met for the first time this summer. In 5 years, we met and sat down and had some conversation. And it was like meeting an old friend, and we kind of just reminisced about the crazy old times that we both lived through. And, we're both moved past that. And will always love my mother because she's my mother, but I think that we are just very different. And I have to respect the differences between us and just move forward with my own beautiful life. And if she pops in here and there, then I welcome her.
That shows so much growth, like on a soul level, I think, to have that. It does. And like when you were speaking these words, Jenna, I really felt the love. And I know that that's not, actually, I have tears. I could feel the love because it's like you could have discarded this human, let's say, right? Like as humans, we often, when there's someone that has hurt us or done something, we say they're toxic, their stuff, and we shut them out and we discard them. And I'm not saying that that's wrong or right, but that's just someone's journey, and it doesn't allow the other person to grow or come to some realization. But like what you're doing, I feel like you're still able to send love to your mom, you know. She's feeling it, right? Because you're not closed off and you have this beautiful way of seeing her, which like for me right now, I am feeling that love, and I am just, it just feels amazing to just sit with you here, talk about this painful experience with this human. And this is what I mean, we never know where these conversations take us and what healing and yeah, but I know that I am getting so much out of listening to you, and you're so inspirational, and I just want to thank you. Thank you for sharing this. Because I can see the power that you bring now to your work, right? Through your own healing, through speaking these words, but the energy that comes with it, because I know, I just feel that that's the truth and it's genuine, which makes me then kind of go like, would you, so I want to talk about, I'm just thinking how do I want to ask you this? Because I'm a complete emotional mess right now, but I wanted to ask you, being now here doing this work and having done the healing and the work for yourself, when you see people who are perhaps where you were a few years back, would you say that working with someone like you, who, let's say we call now a spiritual guide, right? Because a spiritual guide, in my views, in the views that I have seen, or the picture that I have seen of a spiritual guide through the Akashic records, it's not a guru sitting on top of a mountain that knows everything. It's someone who has done it, you know, who has transcended their own pain, who has survived it, and is now here turning around, helping people who are still in the trenches, right? It doesn't matter how many steps they are ahead. And would you say that if we are still dealing with stuff, it would be good to have a spiritual guide, a mentor like you know, like someone who has been there, done that, to guide them through, shine that light?
Yeah, I think that in any opportunity when you get to work with somebody that has overcome a lot and you're in the process of overcoming, it's always great to have somebody that can mentor you, hold your hand, guide you, maybe help you to make the right decisions because you're used to making a different decision. So I think having anybody that's able to help you move in a positive direction is always a benefit to you. Even though we want to deny ourselves of those things most times, I think it is a huge benefit to have that.
So what are your reasons? Like, what are the reasons to why someone might need a spiritual guide?
And I just touched on it a little bit, but I think most of us deny ourselves of the help or the love because we don't think we're worthy. So when we're actually asking somebody to come in and help us, we're actually opening ourselves up more than we realize because we're stepping one foot forward. So that's my biggest thing, is that I'm always so proud of people when they actually take that step forward to help themselves with a mentor, because that is like the force and the momentum is moving you. Now it's your job to keep it moving. So that's my number one, is don't deny yourself of the love and the support.
I love that. Well, because I guess what I'm wondering is, and I know this from like working and knowing, you know, a few clients even that come to mind, where they are now is incredible. But I remember in the beginning of their journey, choosing a person to trust and to guide them felt like failure. It's like I am admitting that I can't do it on my own, that I'm a pardon my language, a screw up. I can't do it. I'm a failure, and so I need someone else to show me how to be a healed person, a complete person, or the way. And so they had that reservation from actually pursuing, to work with someone who can help them, because we have this funny idea, I guess, that a psychologist, psychiatrist, yep, that's okay now. That's, acceptable. You go there, you do your sessions. It's become maybe even trendy to have one. But when it comes to spiritual guides or coaches, even, or mentors, there's still that thing like, yeah, and this doesn't have to be just for life, could be for business, right? If I sign up with a spiritual guide, if I sign up with a business coach, that means I can't do it on my own. I'm failing. What are your thoughts around it, by the way? I love your little companion assistant there.
My little golden doodle. I think that everybody needs help. And I think that if you think you can do it on your own, I mean, you can try it on your own, but I just think, why wouldn't you want the team behind you? We're better in numbers than we are alone. So I would say, get the help. Why not have the help? If you realize in 6 months you don't need it, then that's fine. But to never give yourself that opportunity is just not setting yourself up for success either.
Yes, that is true, because I guess it's like with anything else. I mean, if you can color your hair, you won't go to a hairdresser. But if you can't do it, or you want to get it done better, right, you will go to the hairdresser, and a hairdresser will never look at you and go like, so you failed at doing your own hair. You're coming to me now, right?
Right.
No one thinks that.
I can't massage my own shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing. And I find that even, because I know on my spiritual journey, even where I'm now, I am surrounded by people who have been, psychics or mediums. Some are like X generation, this isn't like they didn't just wake up yesterday and started. And I look up to them, and just even having conversations with them, I know that I feel so much more expanded. And sometimes the way I describe it is that, we stand in our own forest and we can't see it for the trees. So we need someone who's standing outside to kind of go like, well, I can see it, and I can see where you are, and I can guide you through it. I could show you that you are in the forest, right? And so I love that we touched on this, because this is so important. No one should ever feel like they are alone in this. No one should ever feel like they have failed and they need this. It's just having someone to show you the way through the forest.
Yeah. I mean, I see a Reiki girl once a month. I see a polarity girl once a month. I have people that I still rely on every day to help me get through this. So I don't care if you're a coach or you're an executive, everybody still needs that team to back them up to get them through the next day. So don't deny yourself of all the love that could possibly be out there.
Yes, I love that. Now, I would like to change the pace a little bit here, because something really fascinates me about you. And you mention God in your work quite a lot. Now, here or what I have learned, and what a lot of my listeners would resonate with, is that nothing is solid. Reality isn't a solid one-way thing. This is how it is. And so some of my listeners believe in God as this grandfather sitting in the clouds. Some don't believe at all. Some believe that there is some greater force, power, someone there looking over us. And I have my own beliefs where I believe in God, but being brought up Catholic, not by my parents, but just happened to be in that environment, it never resonated with me the way the church portrayed it to my own experience as a kid, because I knew that there was I didn't know about gods, but I knew there was this God that the church and religion and stuff at school were talking about. But my experience was, if I was in trouble, if I was scared to go to school because I was bullied, I could just ask him for help. And immediately I felt this love and like everything will be fine. And then things worked out for me. So I believe in God. I don't have a specific form, shape, or anything, but I would love to know, how do you see God?
Oh, I love this question. Oh my goodness. Where do I begin? As a little kid, I somehow always was drawn to church. And I would go to youth group by myself. I would go to Sunday church by myself. I would always find a ride to church. And my family was not involved in church at all. So there was like something deeper within me that just drew me to God and church at all times. And I chose to be a Christian as a young child. And that's kind of the faith that I've had. But I did get really turned off as a teenager, and I was going to youth group, and these people were like being one way at church and then a different way at school. And I was like, why do I have to go to church to be a good person when I know inside I'm just a good person? So I actually took a really big step back from church for many, many years. And then my grandma passed away. And I just remember like devastated because that woman raised me. She was there for me more than my mother. Like that was like my person. And I just remember questioning everything. And one day I was in a parking lot and I'm like, if you exist, show me you exist. And I came 1 inch from getting in a car accident as I pulled out of the parking lot. And I was like, oh, so you are there. You do hear me. This is all real. And it really just slowly brought me back to my relationship with him. And I don't know what he is or who he is or what he looks like, or is he source or universe, or are they all three one, or what it might be. But all I know is that I have a relationship with some other energy that when I need him, he is there. And he has inspired my positive intention prayer cards. He showed me the visual of what they should look like. And it's that warm hug that you just can't deny or miss when it happens. He's always shown up for me. So I choose to pray to God. I read the Bible every day. My son goes to a private Christian school. Is that the answer? I don't know. But I do believe that there is something bigger and greater there for us that loves us.
Yeah, I love that. And I know, and this is the thing, with no disrespect to any religion or anything, because I truly believe that everyone should believe in something. And I don't mean a particular religion, but should believe in something, even if it's just themselves, right? Or higher self. I work with clients who are like, I don't resonate with guys, or I don't resonate with the Akashic records, or I don't resonate with God. I believe in myself. I believe in my higher self. And that is absolutely fine. This is what I mean. Like nothing is permanent and stable, static. And we can't say definitely it's this way or that way, or it's my way, right? But I always, when I get the chance to talk about God, I like to bring that in, because my experience is very similar to your experience, Jenna, and how I perceive God. You use the words God, and yes, you have those beautiful prayer cards, which I would love for you to go a little bit deeper and tell us more. Like you did say that it was led, inspired by God, but what was your process, reason for making them? And yes, and of course we'll link everything up.
So in that 6 months that I had stopped real estate and I was really trying to figure out what my next move was, I was just sitting there bawling and praying and journaling, and the idea for prayer cards came to me. So I started little research, and I'm like, positive prayer cards, and I didn't really see anything that resonated. And so I told my husband, I'm like, I have this really good idea and I actually can't really find what I'm looking for anywhere on the internet. Should I create that? And he was like, yes, of course you should. Like if that was divinely given to you as an idea, you run with it. And so it's like, okay. So then COVID hit. And I was in COVID, and I actually was really struggling mentally to keep my headspace good, because I have a 3-year-old at home. I have a husband with a company. We don't know what's going to happen yet. And so I really was struggling. And so I started writing. So then when 2020 came around, I think September of 2020, I actually had the opportunity finally to like sit down, and I had 7 prayer cards come pouring out of me. And I did put Dear God on them, but I think you could change it to anything that you personally want to say. But the prayer cards, they're not like a deck of cards like people think. They're just individual cards, and there's peace, love, positivity, grief, worthiness, strength, and change. And I just added a travel one for all the moms with their kids over the summer. But I had a girlfriend whose son passed away, and I wanted her to have a prayer that she could say without having to think about it, but just know she could like have it. And so I wrote the grief prayer card for her. The worthiness prayer card, I was surrounded by all these beautiful women that didn't see their worthiness. And I was like, I have to write this card for you guys. You have to see how amazing you are. And so it's just kind of blossomed into something beautiful that resonates with people. And I feel very honored to share my heart with other people. So
I love this. Thank you for sharing this with us. They are beautiful.
Oh.
Like when you even open them up. See, that's when you know the truth, right? It's coming, and we are sitting in energy that is much higher than us two little humans. Because we get emotional. So
Yeah.
Jenna, I was wondering, is there anything that you wish I asked as we're coming towards the end of this that I didn't ask you, but you feel like you guys need to know this?
So there was one thing that my husband said to me while I was on the process of my healing journey. And he said to me, we were speaking about my mother. He said, you can't hold her to an expectation that she did not agree to, Jenna. And I had a story built up in my head of who I wanted her to be. And that was not her. So once I was able to release that expectation, it really changed everything in my life. I don't, the expectations of how I handle every person moving forward has fully changed, because the story we tell in our heads and then the reality of life are different.
Oh, those are powerful words from your husband. If you missed this, let me just repeat it. You can't hold someone to the expectation that they didn't agree to. Your expectations, it's often our expectations, right? This is beautiful.
Yes.
What a way to take us into the last bit of this episode. And I feel like it's a therapy session for me, honestly. I just received so much love in this session with you. Session, there I go, saying it again. It does feel like a session, Jenna. Please tell us how, if someone's listening to us now, and obviously we know we can go and purchase the cards from you, but how else can someone work with you? Where can they find you?
So I am currently on Instagram doing tips, tricks, and positive little things like you said, which thank you for those sweet words about that. I get nervous sometimes. But that is Jenna B Spiritual. And my website and my Etsy shop are the same name as Jenna B Spiritual. I got very lucky. The universe was had my back on that one.
That's so cool. It's beautiful. And I definitely recommend your beautiful Instagram account, because it is so beautiful, so positive. But what I really love is that you're not just love and light. There are some raw pieces there as well. And you're sharing when you're having a, challenging day. And I think that's what makes you relatable and personable, and makes probably people feel very drawn to your energy. So thank you. And thank you for being here.
Nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. And so I think that when I am having a bad day, it's just as important to share those as the good, because it's just how life is.
Yeah. But to have the courage and strength, right? Because often when we are sitting in our ego, we think, oh no, I have to show up perfect all the time, because the moment I cry or I show something, a flaw, it can be perceived as a flaw, and I may not be taken seriously, or I may not be respected. But it's not, it's the opposite, right? It just makes you more human, more real, more relatable, more personable. And that's you. It's so beautiful. Thank you for
Thank you
being here. Thank
You're
you for
so
making the
sweet.
time. And I'm so
Thank you.
excited that we get to connect. So we will link up all the links to find Jenna, the Etsy shop, Instagram, your website. You have a beautiful website. And thank you again, and enjoy your evening with your beautiful babe. And I will be in your ears next week. Bye for now.